Hi, welcome to another episode of G2G Kodia's #NoFilter. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. G2G Kodia actually first produced and wrote a curriculum for Korean North American youth. It's called Living Faithfully. And there are 34 lessons in here about just different topics to talk about. We are doing Chapter 10.
We're just gonna dive right in. And so our topic is, how far is too far? All right. So we're gonna just start off with like a little anecdote, little story. I will read it to y'all. All right. So Audrey keeps thinking about what happened the other night at her boyfriend's house. She and her boyfriend had been dating for about 6 months and had been attending the same youth group and high school. Last night, he invited her to his house to watch a movie on Netflix. When she went over, she realized his parents and his sister would not be there. She felt a little nervous about it, but did not express that to him because he wasn't making a big deal about the situation. Her boyfriend held her hand when the movie started, and Audrey thought it was cute of him to do that. And then, during a romantic part of the movie, her boyfriend suddenly started cuddling and escalated the level of physical intimacy. She was also caught up in the moment and was going along with what he was doing. But this eventually led to her boyfriend initiating an unwelcome physical touch. Audrey sternly said no, but he ignored her and continued. She finally got up and left the house crying. Her boyfriend chased after her, but Audrey didn't stop for him. He kept on texting her throughout the night to say he was sorry about what happened. Audrey's boyfriend insisted on meeting up with her family, and they finally met at a cafe. He gave her a sincere apology, saying he thought what happened at his house would bring them closer to each other, emotionally and physically. Audrey thought his apology was sincere, but she started having second thoughts about continuing the relationship. She was concerned because she wasn't sure what his intentions were on that day, and she thought he might attempt to do it again when he gets the chance. But she couldn't firmly decide what to do because she still had feelings for him.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
This is such a realistic story. Has this ever happened to you? Or what do you think, first off, what do you think about the boyfriend's behavior? What he did?
I grew up pretty, not sheltered, but I grew up with very set beliefs and like ideas of how relationships should go along, especially at that age. And as a high schooler, I've seen a lot of my friends and a lot of people, get really touchy and whatnot, and for like I try to ignore it, whatever. It was like their business. But for me, there are certain boundaries that you have to place within your relationship, and I definitely think he went too far. Like I get he apologized and whatnot, and if I were in Audrey's shoes, despite having feelings from afterwards, I would probably like either take a break or like discontinue the relationship, only because he broke that boundary. I know it was never said.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't continue the relationship only because he just went way too far.
Yeah. So something similar like this happened to me, where I was invited to a guy's house to watch a movie. Oh,
scandalous.
I never ended up going, and this was it happened more than once that I was invited, mostly because I was scared, I think. At that time, I wasn't allowed to date. If I got caught, dead. If I had to lie to my parents to leave the house, which I didn't really want to do. But in a little bit of my mind, I really wanted to go because I really like this boy. I'm gonna be honest. No, don't say aw, because, yeah. But looking back on it now, I'm so thankful that I didn't. Because there would have been so much more complication and icky things that came along with that. Not only in the fact that I would feel like, guilty or shameful, but at the end of the relationship, because, obviously we didn't stay together, it would have been a lot more for me to emotionally have to sift through to heal from that.
I think that's what a lot of young people don't realize. It's when you're dating someone, it's not just, I'm going to hold your hand, walk you to the next class. I'm just going to watch a movie with you. It comes with a lot of emotional commitment. It's good that Audrey was able to, tell her boyfriend no.
Yeah.
She just left the house, but a lot of girls don't have that courage to do so, and so they'll just go along with it thinking, well, this is the only way I can keep my boyfriend or whatnot. So for me, this entire situation is really, it's very gray.
Yeah.
Because there's the boy's perspective and the girl's perspective.
Yeah.
But in the end, they're both very young, and I would say they weren't exactly know what they were doing.
I totally agree with that. A lot of people think that when they're, well, I thought, and maybe you thought, when I was like early teenagers, I thought I was all grown up. And like the more and more older I get, the more and more I realize like really am not. And even like now I'm not, in a position where I am mature enough, to carry on a relationship in the way that I think would be the best for me and the other person. So together. Do you think he went too far? I think because she said stop, that was like the biggest red flag. But if she didn't say stop, what do you think that would have changed the situation? It would.
Oh, for sure, because if she didn't say stop or didn't tell him anything explicitly, then I think for the dude, like he had no idea, and so he thought it was okay. He thought he had her consent. No girl should ever be placed in that position where she feels uncomfortable with her partner, but it really is up to you and your responsibility to also say no. But then again, it goes hand in hand. There's like one perspective and the other.
I think with the Me Too movement being a huge thing, this past year, if it is really gray area, if there was no super black and white, strong consent or not, it creates a lot of ambiguity, and it's like his word against hers, and there's like people siding with the certain side, and it creates a lot of chaos in that. I really agree with what you said earlier about this line that he crossed. How far is too far? And he went too far, clearly. And I think he did cross a line and he went too far. I totally, if I were in that situation, and especially if I still had feelings left over, it would cause me to be in such remorse. I couldn't be able to figure out if I would still want to be in a relationship. But since the line was already crossed, it would.
I know for a lot of girls, like really, younger people in general, like if I were in Audrey's shoes, for me personally, I might almost feel bad for my partner. And I'm only saying that because I know in the moment he might be sorry and that he truly regrets what he did earlier. And it's gonna be hard on my part to accept the fact that he did something that hurt me. So I have to get over this feeling of I still like him, but what he did was immoral. And if he was truly the person I love, and if he truly loved me, he would never have done that in the first place. So when it comes to younger people, I think it's really hard for them to accept that fact. And like a lot of girls, when like a group of girls, they'll tell one girl like, you just break up with him, like he's not good for you, or he's abusive, or he's whatever. And for some reason they continue to see that same person. I think it's because they can't accept the fact that they truly hurt them and they can't let go. And I think that's what's going on with Audrey.
Yeah, because I kind of agree with that. In a lot of instances, maybe not even just girls, where a person is holding on to a relationship much more than just regular relationship. They hold it higher above, and it causes them to receive a sort of value in their lives. And you hear a lot like, I want a boyfriend. Like I hear this phrase a lot from people around me. I want a boyfriend, I want a girlfriend. And the wanting a person that's next to you, that likes you, that is attracted to you, it is higher than the level of loyalty to yourself you are. And this creates like a dissonance in you mentally that at the end of the day will kind of leave you in a lot of confusion, in a lot of pain.
So many girls and guys have such, they have like an ideal. They want more attention. They want more validation. And I think when you see other people in relationships, you kind of envy them because you're like, oh my God, they love each other so much. They're worthy of each other. But I mean, once you're in the relationship, you realize, hey, this is not what I was expecting. Because with Audrey, I'm sure she was not expecting this.
Yeah, as she like went to the same youth group and the same school. I think it's really icky when you're both Christian. Yeah. You both go to church. You both hear the same sermons. Right. And then outside of church, outside of the church context, there are these temptations that will always be between a couple.
I have friends in high school, non-believers. I mean, they're very open with me, so I'm not gonna list any names, but they told me about the list of people, or at least one guy I'm friends with. He gave me like a list or a number of people he slept with. I said, dude, and you're okay with that? And he was like, yeah, it's like whatever, it's high school. And him saying that kind of made me rethink my whole idea of what high school is. Is high school just a place for you to like hook up with someone? I mean, you guys are like in your teens and you shouldn't be thinking about that stuff. And I get it, our hormones are like raging or whatever, but it's not the place or time. I mean, that's, as a Christian and how I grew up, that's just how I see it. But for a lot of these non-believers, they think it's totally okay, and they think, hey, this is how we mature, and this is how we grow older, and this is how we build our emotions and our mentality and whatever. And I know girls feel the same way at times because they think, I have this many boyfriends, or these guys who said I've hooked up with these many girls. It's just like, really? Is that something you want to use to validate yourself? I don't see it as that being immoral in any way.
Yeah. I think as Christians, we hold ourselves to a different set of rules. And we believe that it is not something that's restricting us as Christians, and it's not something that holds us back in the way we live our lives, but within this safe boundary, it's supposed to make us live in an even more thriving way. Right. And when I see my friends, especially if they're Christian and they've crossed this line with their whatever, it kind of makes me sad because in the end they'll feel guilty or sad, or there's something in their hearts that they have to feel like they need to fill up in a way, and I think that gets me.
Media nowadays, you see movies and you see TV shows and Korean dramas especially, and you're like, oh my God, like I need that dude. Like I want whoever is in that movie to do the same for me in real life. And nowadays, so many young people feel like it needs to be now. I mean, we're not even like halfway through our lives yet, and we're like deciding, hey, this is the person I want to spend the rest of my life with, or I need someone there with me. I mean, there's so much more that we don't know about our own selves, but we want to know the other person more, Like we need to first find our identity, our purpose, which is not easy. Some people can't find that till like way later, but I think that's the first step before, and like loving yourself before loving someone else.
I completely agree. Like, I was listening to a dating podcast that my brother sent me, and more than there's who you should date, like the type of person you should date, like how you should date. There are different topics of that podcast, but throughout that podcast I learned more and more about the person I should try to be and build myself up to be, so that I can be the person that whoever I'm dating, they want to date. Right. And right now we're building ourselves up for a relationship that is trying to last.
And in this generation, you can really see how much the media actually now, it's kind of weird to say, but like it glorifies sex and like that sexual intimacy that you have with your partner. And you see that in pretty much every single PG-13 movie. And above. And then you see that in TV shows, like even our favorite like beloved TV shows like Friends or The Office, or I don't know about The Office, but
probably. I could if I put my money on it.
But like I know Friends, they are always talking about sleeping with someone in like every other episode, and like a while ago, the book 50 Shades of Grey came out, and then they made that whole movie about it, and literally it was crazy, and like people thought that is romantic, or that is what I wish my partner and I could do. And it's kind of gross almost to think that that's okay. And you know, like you see these guys like super built, and they're like really good looking or whatever, and then you see these girls like perfect figure or whatever, and you, when like young girls and when guys see that, they're like, oh, I need to be like that, and they think it's okay to participate in such behavior every day. They think, oh, this is okay because everything on the media is doing it. Like you see porn sites and it's so popular, and it's just people, especially non-believers, are so captivated by what's going on around them, especially in the media, and they think everything in the media is okay. And they think because this famous person is doing that, like I can do it too. It's like, oh, it's okay. And they just, like high schoolers nowadays, they think, you know, sleeping with each other is totally fine. It's like, what I've heard is like, it's like training grounds before you go into college. And it's like, no, not really.
We can say, a lot of people say that our generation is over-sexed. I think that's the term. Whether it be media, whether it be advertisements, it's really, people are honing into this like sexual desire as a way to market, as a way to be entertaining. And we're constantly surrounded with things that will trigger our sexual desire. And it causes a lot of people to fall into sexual immorality, which as Christians is a sin. So on sexual immorality, what is exactly in defining sexual immorality? We are provided with a lovely definition right here. Being sexually immoral means being lustful, which goes out of God's original intention for sexuality. God has created us as sexual beings, but God wants us to handle our sexual desire within the boundary of holiness and sanctification. How we handle our sexual desires determines whether we are sexually immoral or not. For example, when you date someone, it is natural that you have a sexual desire towards your partner. It's totally natural, that's okay. But how do you handle the desire? Do you just let it grow and take actions to channel it into your sexual satisfaction? Or do you want to control it to strive for God's holiness and sanctification? As Christians, we are striving for holiness and sanctification. And the media today is portraying sex outside of this holiness. And so many people are like consuming on this right now.
I know, like even in the early 20th century, it was okay. Like people were, it was, you know, we're coming out of that conformity, and people are starting to be like, this is okay. Like we're going into the 60s, like hard rock and roll, whatever. And then like drugs, sex, love, that was the whole sexual revolution. But then I feel like people don't realize that, this was what my AP bio teacher told me. Humans, when we are created, there's like things that we are required to do. We're supposed to eat and grow, get married and produce, and then die. That was it. But then nowadays, that produce step became too many steps. If that makes sense. Like people use sex and sleeping with other people or hooking up or whatever as a way to, I don't know, for not just for love but for pleasure. And I think that's where we step into this whole immorality, like that whole realm of unholiness, and people think it's okay.
I think we are sexual beings. Sexual desire is not wrong, but God intended us to have sex in the certain boundary, being married, you know, and
to have kids,
to have children, and it's pleasurable for a reason. I think it's, I heard, you know, it's pleasurable because this is a gift from God. And to kind of run rampant with it, as Christians, it is wrong. From 1 Thessalonians 4:1-8.
As for other matters, brothers and sisters, we instructed you how to live in order to please God, as in fact you are living. Now we ask you and urge you in the Lord Jesus to do this more and more. For you know what instructions we gave you by the authority of the Lord Jesus. It is God's will that you should be sanctified, that you should avoid sexual immorality, that each of you should learn to control your own body in a way that is holy and honorable, not in passionate lust like the pagans who do not know God, and that in this matter no one should wrong or take advantage of a brother or sister. The Lord will punish all those who commit such sins, and as we told you and warned you before, for God did not call us to be impure, but to live a holy life. Therefore, anyone who rejects this instruction does not reject a human being, but God, for the very God who gives you his Holy Spirit.
Man, it's written so clearly there. But, so often we compromise this clear message.
I think a lot of non-believers will have a hard time accepting that.
Yeah.
Especially, they're going to think, for Christians, who are they to tell us that it's immoral? Who are they to tell us that we shouldn't be living out our lives like this? We have our own choices. This is our life that we get to live out. If God gave us choices, then why can't we, make our own choices? But he also gave us rules and instructions on how to use the gift that he provided us with. And for us to abuse that is, defying God, and it's not right. As much as other people might think that whoever, if you don't believe in God or whatever, there's a limit, and there are boundaries that you should place, because you don't want to exploit your body for pleasure or for other people.
Yeah. I think so often we forget, or we don't acknowledge that being physically intimate comes with different strings. There's no strings attached, friends with benefits or one night stand. But at the end of the day, us as humans, you can't really completely 100% separate, unless you're a sociopath or a psychopath. I'm sure that's a different story. But you can't really separate yourself, your pleasure, physical pleasure, and then emotions. It's us as human beings, we can't do that.
Yeah, and it's hard for a lot of people because you see some of your favorite stars and your favorite celebrities on YouTube or social media or on the screen or in TV shows, and because you love them so much and they're doing all these things, you think that is moral. And I think a lot of non-believers have a hard time distinguishing what's immoral versus moral. And I think that's where a lot of healing needs to be taking place, and a lot of, education, whatever, just to inform these people, what is moral and what's immoral. I know a lot of people will think, again, like I said earlier, who are we as Christians to tell them such things? But if that's what we're called to do, that's what we'll do. Thank you for watching G2G Kodia. I know this was a very intense topic, but we hope you enjoyed, and we'll share all this information along to your peers. Oh, don't forget to comment, and subscribe.